get reaction. Let's discuss all of the latest developments with Daryl Parks. He is an attorney for Michael Brown's family. Mr. Parks, it's good to see you again.
Good morning.
So Eric Holder is going to Ferguson today. I've heard maybe some differing accounts. Is the Attorney General meeting with Michael Brown's parents?
It's not scheduled as of now.
Or do they want to meet, or are there conversations? I've heard both. Yes, he's meeting, and nothing's on the schedule.
Well, let me clear it up.
Yeah.
As Thursday of last week, representatives from the Civil Rights Section of the Department of Justice and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Missouri met with the family. That was the first meeting. Second, late on Friday, agents interviewed the mother as part of their official investigation. So the whole Department of Justice investigation has been ongoing since midweek last week. So the AG's coming, that's a great thing. However, but the actual work began last week.
I would imagine, though, that they would want to meet with the Attorney General if he was open to that meeting.
Well, if he needed to, yes. But I think, remember, the real work are the agents who are out questioning people. So when we met, there were 2 agents assigned to the case last week initially, and then they called in additional agents over the weekend, which we weren't aware of. And as you know, the Department of Justice does not share any detail of their investigation with us. So we're glad they're doing what they're doing. We welcome the AG. We have great respect for him, and his presence certainly shows that President Obama and him see this as an issue of great importance to the Michael Brown family, but also to the American public, because people are very concerned about this case.
Well, and Mr. Parks, what does the family want to hear from the Attorney General? It is very rare and very significant that in the midst of an investigation, the Attorney General himself is going to the scene.
Well, I think he's already started to say, I mean, the amount of resources that the Department of Justice has devoted to this situation, along with his presence, certainly lets us know that they're taking it seriously. Remember now, up until now, the locals, you've had leaks of information. We've had straight distrust created by various scenarios that have happened thus far since Michael's death. So for the feds to take the serious approach that they're taking is welcomed.
Daryl Parks, Chris Cuomo out here in Ferguson. Let me give you an opportunity to respond to a couple of points of pushback that we've been hearing here as the case progresses. First, what can you tell us about Michael Brown's past as a juvenile? There's speculation that, it's inaccurate to say that there's nothing there. It's only as an adult there's nothing there. Is there any truth to that he had altercations or any kind of record as a juvenile?
Let me say it. I'll say this, Chris. He was a typical kid. He may have had, some situations that may have occurred as a juvenile, but, we need to not be at a point where we could start to blame the victim for what he did. I think this officer's background is the one in question, because his action is the one that took Michael Brown's life.
I understand you, but you know that is information that people are going to try to get, and at some point, that's going to be seen as somewhat of an analysis of how forthcoming your side is being and what they say about it. But I understand your point about not blaming the victim. And that takes us then to the account of what happened that night. Any concern on your part and the part of the family about how the friend that night, Dorian, his story may be changing a little bit? Now he's saying that he heard the officer say, "I'll shoot you." He heard the gunfire from that first shot. Story changed somewhat there. Is that a concern?
Not a concern. The one great thing in this case, Chris, is that you have numerous witnesses who witnessed this incident. And so that's one witness, and the witness testimony must be taken in totality as you would have in any case. So it's not a big concern here. We believe that given the great number of witnesses, without question, this officer should be charged.
Mr. Parks, the grand jury could also take up the case today, begin hearing evidence in the case. Many people are saying this is quite fast, that the grand jury could be starting to look at evidence. What do you know about it? What do you make of it?
Well, I think it's okay. We must remember that there's some evidence in this case that's not going to change. So witnesses that they've spoken to, preliminary parts of the autopsy report, radio communication, where bullet casings were found in the case. That stuff won't change. There's a small amount of evidence that requires further additional testing that may take some time.
Do you trust the county prosecutor?
Well, I hope that he would do his job, and I think his job and the Fed's job are important. Without question, the state law allows far greater charging authority than the federal law, so we welcome both investigations.
Are you going to be watching him closely? Does the county prosecutor's background Is it a concern for your legal team? It's been called into question.
Well, let me say this. I mean, you would hope that there possibly was a different prosecutor, but if that doesn't happen, I believe that this lawyer hopefully will do his job and understand the world is watching. He has no vested interest with all of the eyes watching his case to do anything but the right thing.
Daryl, I think you should explain something to the audience. You haven't liked the idea of a grand jury from the beginning. To people, that's an impressive thing. Ooh, grand jury, you know, that's serious if that happens. You've been saying, no, an arrest would have been serious. They didn't have to charge him. They could have had a probable cause hearing with a judge. Why would you have preferred that route? Why would you have seen that as equal justice?
Well, I think it's the prosecutor punting on the situation. When the prosecutor in any situation could choose to do a direct file and file a complaint, and the case can move forward within the system, especially when you have a great number of witnesses who've come forward thus far.
And you're saying because it would have been an open process and there'd be a judge involved, so you'd be able to know what evidence was presented. Grand jury sounds great, but it's a private, closed proceeding, and you don't know what happens. Is that your point?
For sure. I mean, when they go in the grand jury room today, we'll never know what was presented, what weight was given to certain evidence, how it was presented. I think, given a case like this one, given what the information that we have already, it's far proper to charge and to let there be a public trial, let everyone present evidence, let the evidence be tested and confronted, and move forward.
Kind of on that question, what more have you heard of Officer Wilson's account of that day?
Well, only the third party who came forward is all we've heard. We haven't heard anything about his background. There's plenty of information about this officer that the department could have put out in the public that should be public about him, who he is, and his history. We obviously are doing some investigation of our own to track down some of the things that we see in his past.
Is there anything that you can tell us? I mean, there is not a lot released. Everyone is looking for more information.
Well, I think there's going to be some interesting things you're going to learn about him. I'm not going to say it right now, but we found some things thus far that will certainly draw your eye.
Into his background as a police officer?
Into his background as a police officer and his interaction with other people.
Daryl Parks, attorney for the Michael Brown family, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course.